My lords, today I have quite the story to tell. Our third expedition fleet recently conquered and purged a planet in the Draconis system. The inhabitants were reptilian lizards and significantly less advanced than ourselves. It was a simple victory. Upon occupation of their planet, now designated Salem, we identified some strange anomalous readings. A science team was called to investigate. Dr. Livingston, an experienced explorer and researcher, led the excursion. Livingston and his team identified several alien artifacts buried in the ground across the planet. They are described as highly accurate laser pointers, ancient machines that emit an incredibly strong, tight ultraviolet beam out into space. However, one would assume that these point at something. That is not the case. It remained unclear what the purpose of these lasers was. That is until Dr. Livingston identified a large asteroid impact crater site. The crater itself was deemed unimportant, but the Doctor calculated the impact itself clearly wasn't powerful enough to obliterate the planet, but it did nudge it a fraction outside of its original orbit. Through intense mathematical analysis, the team managed to calculate Salem's original orbit and rotation. Using that data, they rewound the alien laser pointers to their original alignment. Once the alignment was fixed, the beam converged upon another planet in the Draconis system, the planet Dis. Our teams quickly converged upon Dis. The seismographic readings quickly isolated a hollow area roughly a kilometer below the surface, on the rough location indicated by the alien lasers. The underground area is vast, and despite its mysterious nature, it was instantly clear to the science teams that it was not a natural rock formation. Somebody built it, seemingly for a specific purpose. The excavation crews eventually reached the underground structure. It consisted of vast angular halls and tunnels. A total lack of adornment made it difficult to ascertain the nature of the structure, and as Dr. Livingston entered the main chamber, a deep sound suddenly reverberated. Initially, it was just a thundering noise. The sound slowly contorted until an incorporeal voice spoke in a single sentence, in our own language. It said, "Are you ready?" The booming voice was followed by a deep rumble as one of the giant walls slowly slid away to reveal a dark corridor. Dr. Livingston and the team eagerly went inside. The dark corridor led into an empty round chamber. Stepping inside, the disembodied voice spoke again, saying that only the deserving may continue. The team, confident that they could pass any tests thrown at them, continued on. Short corridors connected the round chamber to the three other small rooms. Each room contained some sort of physics-orientated problem. Dr. Livingston reported that he believed that they were scientific riddles designed to measure their technological progression, and that if completed, they would provoke some sort of reaction. Therefore, the team set about completing the tasks that lay before them. All three puzzles were completed with relative ease, and as Dr. Livingston expected, the structure responded to the correct solutions for the alien trials. As the last riddle was solved, a cloudy holographic projection exploded into life in the main chamber. It was a fine-resolution depiction of the Draconis system, along with scrolling instructions for specific alien technologies. On the surface of Dis, a number of alien laser indicators sprang into life, this time pointing towards a planet in a nearby system. Dr. Livingston and his team quickly converged on the planet Hadras and identified another subterranean structure buried deep below the surface of the world. After a long and arduous period of digging deep into the crust of the planet, the team soon reached the structure. Despite readings indicating that the building was hollow, no entry point could be identified. It appeared that the complex was hermetically sealed, and the walls of the building were made out of some unknown alien material with extreme structural integrity, greater than that of even neutronium armor of a battleship. Conventional digging equipment didn't even scratch it. After months of work, Dr. Livingston managed to convince Fleet Admiral Hood to bring a battleship into the atmosphere of the planet and use its tachyon lance at the building. The lance thankfully did as Livingston predicted and melted a nice 10-meter wide circular hole in the building. As soon as the vault was cracked, the disembodied voice that we heard on Dis spoke again. It declared that our determination had been proven and another trial had been completed, and as such we would be rewarded accordingly. The bunker we cracked into contained all sorts of valuables, not least of which was some new alien technologies for the team to plunder. Livingston did note his amusement that we obviously managed to purge this race just before they had access to these prizes. However, he noted concern about what or whom we may find at the end of the excursion, and that they may not be best pleased when we show up instead of the lizards on Salem. In any case, as before, laser indicators sprang into life, showing the team where they had to travel next. Dr. Livingston and his team arrived at the planet designated Anchor. Extensive seismographic readings were compiled into a highly accurate visual model of another underground structure, similar to those previously discovered. This structure, however, seems to have a vast network of angular corridors, each several kilometers long, and one large open space at the bottom of the building. Once breached, the team investigated the complex. The corridors were long and completely empty. On closer inspection, the walls appeared to be covered in small, strange inscriptions. Translation of the alien language was a highly confusing process until Livingston discovered that the writing consisted of nothing but alien names, numbering in the millions, or even billions. Very bizarre. Eventually, the team reached the bottom of the chamber of the structure. Here they found an ancient recorded message, some kind of personal debrief. It read, "We failed. The relentlessness cut through our entire navy without even slowing down. All is lost now. We will die here. In these halls of tribute to the fallen brethren, we fear for the lives of our ward. The relentlessness will find them." The recording was cut off, however there is no sign of struggle, no bodies, only the empty halls and silence of the ones who perished. Livingston continued study of the site for several weeks, until a small device was discovered in the extensive corridor network. It was a small fragment of a data recording, and it read, "Could work. With their mental faculties shut off, their very intellect removed, they would pose no threat. It must be enough. It is the only thing left that we can do." The device also included some new coordinates to a planet we had not yet surveyed. Fortunately, there is no requirement for shovels or drilling lasers at this site. Dr. Livingston and the team were quickly able to identify it and simply walk into the alien ruin upon this world. The site was very old, more than 1,000 years, but fairly well kept. It appeared to have been some kind of staging area built for a specific purpose. There were several laboratories and large storage hangars. Furthermore, the team have found a digital archive server that they managed to get up and running. The archive contained arbitrary logs which require some fairly liberal interpretation. The phrase "mind wipe initiative" occurred frequently throughout these logs, and if we have translated it correctly, then it appears that this was the specific focus of the research at this location. Apparently, the race who left behind these clues developed the technology by which they could manipulate the effectiveness of mental faculties, but how or for what purpose remains unknown. The planet has been given a designation of Concord, and the team have identified another site containing more digital archives. This one was also mostly full of logs, however two were of a particular note. The first reads, "The ship has taken off. We know they'll succeed, but there was no hope or high spirits as they left. We know that the mission and the work we've done here are wrong. Despicable. But the alternative is much worse." And the second reads, "Shouldn't be forgotten. Someone has to come clean and speak up for them. History may endure, but my conscience cannot." That was one of the last entries found at the ancient facility. The second log also contained more encrypted coordinates, and it seems that this adventure will continue. The coordinates lead Dr. Livingston to a planet already within our empire, but currently uninhabited, designated Thinis. The coordinates led the team to an exceptionally craggy part of the world, where the landscape was filled with vertical stone surfaces and deep fissures. Eventually the team came across an entrance to a cave and entered with great anticipation. The team, upon exploring the cave, found a tremendous, apparently abandoned stockpile of valuable resources. There were no doors, no locks or traps, just a cave full of industrial valuables, vast amounts of alloy and exotic resources. Dr. Livingstone, however, believed that the treasure was just a ruse and that something greater was hidden here. Dr. Livingstone turned out to be correct. A great discovery was indeed made. A data terminal, containing records about the alien race who left this treasure here, details their circumstances. Eons ago, the race who left the treasure, who Livingstone has designated the benefactors, were locked in a stalemate as two major factions of their empire wrestled for overall sovereignty. In an effort to gain an advantage, one side executed a false flag operation. Posing as their own opposition, they attacked a lesser species, the species of lizards that we purged back on Salem. A synaptic dampener bomb was triggered on Salem. It did nothing to the ecology, but the pulse affected the lizards' brains and effectively reduced them to primitives. The trail and tokens that we have found evidently suggest that the benefactors eventually sought redemption for this act. It would therefore seem that, had we not conquered these lizards, they would have eventually found the benefactors' boons and discovered this important fact about their history for themselves. My lords, one would assume that this was the end of the story. However, not so, for recently during a routine system scan, the science vessel Solus picked up a small but strange energy signature. It was deemed likely to be a trace exhaust from a fusion drive or something similar, but the signature doesn't match anything we've encountered so far, and it appears to be remarkably old, indeed several thousands of years old. Our scientists believe it to be related to the benefactors, and Dr. Livingstone has been assigned to the research project. Livingstone reports that the old fusion drive trail turned out to be quite challenging to analyze due to its considerable age. Eventually, Dr. Livingstone and his team managed to calculate a likely navigation vector and establish that the trail was pointing to a hitherto unknown system. Dr. Livingstone made haste to this unknown system, and upon arrival it became clear that something very violent and destructive occurred here eons ago. Broken spaceships and debris were scattered throughout the system, and the local void teemed with the energy residue from weaponized lasers and fusion explosions. In this silent graveyard, a single signal is isolated and is coming from a small space station nearby. The signal originated from an emergency pod aboard the space station. Due to severe damage, the dead station left few clues to what happened. However, it is clear that the station was a research facility, and it appears that this is where the mind wipe technology was created, the same technology used to mind wipe the lizards on Salem. It seems that the station and its protective fleet were engaged by an unknown force, after which the mind wipe technology was stolen. Livingstone did discover an interesting message transmitted from the attacker's fleet. It reads, "They're trying to escape. Follow them. Use their own weapon against them. See how they like it." A new fusion drive trail has been identified, and the Doctor has established a route out of system. As the Doctor and his team entered the Coal system, everything began to fall into place. The Coal system contained a singular world capable of supporting life, and it was on this world that we found a race of primitive humanoids. This race of humanoids are the benefactors. Dr. Livingstone is unsure of the exact details, but everything indicates that they somehow fell victim to their own mind-wiping technology and were left on the planet to fend for themselves. As such, it appears we are left with a choice, my lords. Sometimes, the events of the universe unfold in a most poetic fashion. Once, this primitive race was the undisputable masters of the lizards on Salem that we destroyed. Ironically, they now find themselves in need of enlightenment. Do we, the giants, take pity on them and allow them to stand on our shoulders? Or do we take this for what it is, a simple story, and pragmatically take the planet for our own? Our xenobiologists always need new subjects. Of course, we could simply do nothing. As always, my lords, the decision rests in your capable hands. Thanks for watching, folks. Which choice would you make? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to hear another story, please click the video on screen now.